All right. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be reading Chapter 2 of Silen in my book series, Grim and Jim, The Awakening. And if you haven't already, there is a character introduction and kind of some spoilers, some details over what the chapters are. I always release those first before I do the audiobook, so make sure you catch up on that video. Leave a like, a comment on any of the videos. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit all notifications. And without wasting too much time, let me go ahead and just get right into it. Chapter 2 is Silen Moors. Since I was a girl, I could never truly remember a time when my mother wasn't teaching me something new. From walking to talking to knowing herbs and maths, I sit silently in the abyss of a carcass. To every depth of my DNA, I store knowledges from far and wide, quantumly, primordially, and am capable of transmuting materials into new ones with the flick of thought. I seek to keep my brother from becoming something he would never be capable of containing. The very seed of evil lies in him, slowly eating at his soul, until there won't be anything left of him but a reckless, invincible, primordial being meant to reset this universe for the next part of its phase. My mother wrote heavily about the presumptions that the universe works in mysterious ways, but she couldn't have been further from the truth. It's cruel, it's dark, and thirsty to strip all from it to feed a selfish ideal meant for all of us to control. Grimm is a child, and the whim of the entirety of existence and I will someday liberate him from his pain. I will liberate everyone and everything from their pain and transmute all living and non-living things in the universe into an ambient limbo of my own design. The pain I encumber every day that mother and father were taken from me so quietly, so suddenly, yet I can't even summon the energy to cry for them. They were weak in their design, and their alchemy was poorly constructed. Grimm and I will grow stronger on this lonesome rock together and eventually make our way to seek for what my father only wrote about as a gateway to a higher plane. A plane that is far greater than this, and additionally says that it may not be governed by a universe at all, but more of a self-governed control center of the universe. That is where I make my way to make the great transmutation. For now, I am seeking an item of great rarity that my mother discovered while delving in a portal that she described as a fire lake, a place devoid of light and hope. As I combine the proper ingredients and circles together, I always try to reimagine my mother in some sort of way. Was she pretty? Does she see me now? Why did they have 2 children on this forsaken planet yet live so humbly? These questions will never be answered and probably can't anymore. Tonight, I seek the blood of a great demon of ash. This will prove great to me for a few of my mother's spells that she made. Why was she an herbalist with such a stoic approach to the retrieval and discovery of these ingredients? She was capable of creating portals to another dimension, yet didn't stand a chance against the shadow? How pathetic. Chanting the words that she wrote and activating the transmutation circle, it opens before me. The portal starts to glow deep red as it appears of pure fiery blood, assuming its shape, almost beckoning me, begging me to come. I summon my staff and my familiar Informe to my side. She's a homunculus of my design that can shapeshift at will, but mostly enjoys being on my finger as a ring. Discovering a conscience of her own, she's bound to me and shares a great portion of my potential power. She produces a gorgeous ring, if you ask me. Mother says every girl needs a ring, not to be happy, but to be reminded that the brightest of light dwells within all women. I never really enjoyed reading her emotional banter in her books. She was always one for moaning for attention, to hope than the task at hand. What a curious woman my mother was, truly. To me, she was a hopeless optimist that couldn't even realize when the room was dark, if you catch my drift. With one deep breath into an unknown dimension that beckoned and reeked of demon stench stand before me and Informe. As she looked at me, she changed into a larger, more stout form that I could ride. Her form was vicious and spared no inch to beauty. She was perfect in her own way. She had 6 eyes, 3 on each side of her canis-like head, and wore a mane that was rough and armor-like, but yet furry. Her skull partially showed to some glands of sorts that even I didn't know what use it was. She dug her back claws into the thick floor below her, glowing red from the portal's sickening presence, and with one incredible push, she shot us through the portal. As we made it through the portal, we were falling at a great height. The air was thick and hot, with smoldering geysers erupting everywhere. A swarm of minor demons swarmed us as we came to the bottom of our fall. Hundreds of them leaped, waiting to sink their teeth into our pure bodies. I closed my eyes and stabbed my staff into the ground, summoning my lance, with a great fury of devastation to the ground, raising soaring explosions of light. Grasping it tightly, I found my ground, digging my hind leg into the ground and dashing forward, turning them into a well-deserved mist of blood and ash. Informe quickly made herself useful, taking on a horde of hellish dwellers by herself, splitting the waves of scions between us. Holding my lance straight, I summoned a great blast of blue flame and started waging war with the ugly beast of below, covering the land with devastation and great explosions of death. A long battle was fought between Informe and myself, already at work, so I quickly drew my lance forward, turning it back to my staff, and held it tightly, chanting a luck spell, all while Informe was already growing her newly formed wings, ready to take flight. Leaving the hordes of damnation, as they grew in unimaginable numbers, to the hell's floor, the spell took time to locate a demon through this stench, so I commanded her to land on a floating, smoldering heap of molten stone. She quickly changed back into a ring and left me to my business here, and to also rest after our encounter. I began the chant, being aware that my presence here will be even greater threat to this dimension, and should tread very carefully. I continued the chant, and with one great strike into the ground, with my staff, the Lux Arche shined upon a direction, quickly disappeared, leaving orbs of depression in its wake. This place was never meant to see light, and the sight of it dispels its existence back to the void of despair. Finding my heading, I started my way to a vast mountain, spewing fires, and clearly ones of great demise could dwell. Staying vigilant, I summoned a dispel shield that would take care of any demon curse that I may miss. Suddenly, it became still. Moving without a second to waste to the right, a large, giant sword swung past my body, completely destroying the ground it touched, spraying the space around with debris. Summoning Informe, I grabbed upon her mane. Power leaping off the adjacent rock that was left from the destructive blow, I made an attempt to strike the massive demon in its fiery pit of one of its hearts. As we flew through the air, I could feel the intensity of the fight at hand, The sheer size and destructive power of this being was breathtaking. Knowing that this clearly was not an ash demon, I rose my staff and deflected the ricochet of the stone with a lux explosion that I cast as we went by. Flying starlight debris flew everywhere as we fought, not leaving a second to stop spawning the energy to telecast as I cast spells in a hurricane of thunder light to him. Holding myself steady along a perch above his head, I shot a bolt and struck one of his hearts, making the demon fall, creating a giant red plume of dust as he fell to his knees. His arm flung the sword into the air. Now pushing off of the wall with my feet, causing the wall to break into pieces, plummeting me towards him and summoning a great massive spear of light, screaming my way through the top of his neck, through the rest of his hearts below, exposing the tip of the spear through the bottom portions of his so-called leg. Informe catching the rest of my fall. His sword struck the ground as I brushed the dust off my clothes. Onward, I said. We must find this material for the final preparations, Informe. With an unsuccessful and already eventful beginning to the trip, I summoned the portal back. Now, as I went through, I heard Grim making his way back in, clearly hurt. As always, Informe making her way onto my hand, I began a pot of stew and some bandages. The portal reaching outward as it closes, begging me to remain open. Alright, that concludes chapter 2, short but sweet. We are about to venture into chapter 3 where things kind of get more interesting. And again, if you haven't caught the introductions to the chapters before I do the audiobook, they're very informative. I don't expose too many details about what will be read, but you get some visuals, and it kind of helps wrap everything in my perspective. So if you like that, please leave a like, leave a comment or two. Please feel free to subscribe so you're always up to date with my content. And thanks. I'll see you for chapter 3. Bye.